Hey guys, Matthew here, and yesterday I made this video called Need for Speed, which was a lab running video based on the 0.1% series. Now what happened at the end of the video is I had linked another video for somebody else's build guide, and it turned out that it no longer worked. Now what happened after that is I started looking for additional build guides or anything like that, and there was literally nothing to be found. Figure out that the actual lab runners, the fastest lab runners, are actually gatekeeping and making sure that nobody knew their new strategies to be able to do the gift of the goddess and insta-phase his arrow, not die, and all that good stuff. So I decided, as a man of the people, that I was going to come up with my own build, and here we are. So this build is not min-maxed in any way, shape, or form. It's still missing a lot of move speed and some damage. The weapons are nothing crazy. You'll see when we get to the PoE part of the video. But there's basically two builds I want to talk about today, or at least two versions of this build. The first one is going to be the one that my current build is based on, which is going to be a comfortable Gift of the Goddess runner, not an actual racing build. So what that means is that we are going to be fast and all that, but we're not going to be as fast as possible. We're going to be lacking about 200% movement speed, which is a significant amount when we're talking about racing. Next, I'm going to talk about the racing build and the racing PoB, and that one is going to be purely based on speed, very little in terms of resistances, very little in terms of damage. That second build cannot do the Gift of the Goddess. It is a pure racing build for Uberlab. So before anything else though, let me go ahead and show you guys a run of a Gift of the Goddess, just to show you guys that we can do it. Now, I haven't run lab in about a year and a half or something. It's been a while, so I'm a little bit rusty. I'm definitely not the lab runner that I used to be, but, please no bully. Still, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what a run would look like, and basically talk you through what I'm doing. So obviously I have a whole series about lab running. I have a whole series based on things like how to reverse shield and the mechanics. Now I'll talk about it a little bit in this video, but honestly not a whole lot, because like I said, I've already made all that content. So I'm mostly just going to focus on the new stuff, but of course I'll still give you guys a bit of an explanation of what's going on. All right. So, as you saw there was a few, there's a few required gear swaps. Now, these are actually not optional. They are required, unless you have incredibly good gear. And I don't have incredibly good gear, therefore, I need to do some swapping around to get the damage required. Now, if I had an insane build, all I would have to swap is actually my chest piece, not the belt, not the helmet. But since my build is not absolutely insane, I can't do that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Go in the corner. We're good to go. So, again, we have 3 swaps. We're swapping the helmet. I'll talk about why later on in the video. We're swapping the chest because that running setup is in the initial chest. And then we have the actual damage setup or kill setup in the other chest. And finally, we're also swapping the belt, and that is basically additional damage that allows us to get cheap weapons. Now, this is one of the worst set of traps that you can get in Uberlab, the one that I just did right now. It's actually pretty deadly. But as you saw, we did it without any issues.
My mana is gone.
I mean, the biggest reason for that is probably just due to the fact that we are very quick, so we don't really get hit by anything. All right. So now it's going to be important to note about the last phase, if you have gear that's as bad as mine, is that you are going to need to use your brand, which is basically Calling Strike. So what I'm going to do here, the big difference is I'm actually going to pop my brand, and then I'm going to call the guy, and here we are. So, 2 minutes and 24, I think that actually might be my best run today. I'm at 2:25 currently. Oh, nope. So, the timer in-game is always a second behind, which is kind of weird. But either way, not a big deal. About 2 minutes 24, you saw there was no real issues in terms of dying or anything like that. And that was a Gift of the Goddess, so the Uberlab. You'll see that we are going to get a bunch of different enchants here. So I'm just going to go ahead and use them real quick, because I'm trying to get Berserk effect, and when I get that, my move speed is going to go up by like 100 or something, which is going to be really nice. All right, so now that I showcased what it looks like to actually run the Uberlab with the build, let's talk about a few different mechanics, and then let's jump into the PoB. So the first mechanic we have to talk about is going to be reverse chill. Now I'm going to make it quick. But essentially, reverse chilling is you chill yourself, and then you reverse the effect. So instead of having 30% less action speed, you have 30% more. There's a lot of required pieces to be able to do this. All right. First piece, winter weave. This is what's going to reverse the effect of chill. Second piece, Oxium. This is going to make it so the chill and freeze durations are based on your energy shield. This is going to allow you to actually chill yourself for more than, 0.1 second or something, and actually get a good 30% chill and not a very low percent chill. Now, the issue here is that if we chill ourselves based on energy shield, we need to have 0 energy shield. So the next thing is going to be agnostic. We are going to need agnostic to be able to actually chill ourselves properly with, based on energy shield from the Oxium. Now, the thing is, to chill ourselves, we actually need to find a way to actually take cold damage, right? So the way that we do that is by using Scold's Brittle, which gives you 400% of your mana spent on skills is actually done to you as physical damage. So what we need to do is convert some of that physical damage to cold. The best way to do that is to use a shield with a physical damage from hits taken as cold damage. When you put all of these different things together, you end up with self-chill. So what I have here is a phase run, which is costing me 37 mana, and every single time I use it, I am giving myself a chill for 2 seconds. This chill is giving me a, let's see, where is it? An action speed modifier of 30%, which means I'm chilling myself. Now, you can even go further and make sure that this chill effect is actually permanent on you and never leaves you. Now, the way that you do that is by getting a lot of cooldown recovery rate of skills, and the best way to do that is to get a Watcher's Eye with 50%. You get another 30% here and another 20% there. But it's pretty hard to actually get the 100% uptime on chill. A lot of the time, you're going to have a little bit of downtime, but it's not a big deal. All right, next we need to talk about Berserk. Berserk is very simple. It's just a gem, right? It's just a gem, and what it does is gives you 30% more move speed while it's up. So what we want to do is to try to get it up as much as possible. Now, what's really cool about Berserk is that the alternate quality actually gives you more spell damage, so that when you link it to enhance, our Berserk is giving a 44% more spell damage. This is essentially where the damage comes to be able to even one-shot his arrow. No Divergent Berserk, probably no one-shot his arrow, unless you actually had really, really good weapons or a bunch of additional swaps, like, for example, Bottled Faith and all that, which I'll talk about in the PoB. So the idea is to have as much uptime on Berserk as possible. But now you might be wondering, how do we even get the rage? Well, that's another mechanic. We are going to be using a Lethal Pride with Akoya. The number doesn't matter. This is going to give us Chainbreaker. Chainbreaker makes it so that mana regen rate is actually applied to rage regeneration rate. What that means is that if we stack a bunch of mana regen, we are actually able to get enough rage to Berserk, and we can Berserk for a really long time. Now, let's talk about how we get the mana regen to be able to do that. So, the easiest way is to get a Blue Pearl Amulet with mana regen implicit, and then mana regen as the suffix as well. Easiest way to do that would be to use essences. Now, you don't need an amulet as good as mine. I literally just got lucky on this. You can also essence craft a ring, like the one I have right now, with a 74%, which also, with the catalyst, goes up to 88% mana regen. Now, if you're missing one of these two pieces, like maybe your +2 amulet doesn't have mana regen suffix, or maybe it has the mana regen suffix, but it's not a Blue Pearl Amulet. Meaning, if you're missing any of these one little thing, what you can do is get the mana regen enchant on your boots, which would look something like that. Now, we've always cast a spell recently. So because we've cast a spell recently, we always have that 70% mana regen, which is making up for either one of these things you're lacking. Now you don't need these 7 league steps. You could have it on a pair of boots like this. Again, in the PoB, there's going to be different options. And that is basically how you get your Berserk to last as long as possible. And what you can do is get the Enchant Berserk buff effect, and this is going to increase the living crap out of your actual move speed, but not just move speed, also damage. So that's what I'm working on right now. Like I said, I'm missing like over 100% move speed from that enchant alone. So my build is not min-maxed at all. Currently, I'm running about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 seconds behind the fastest people. Now, I'm really, really rusty, like I said at the start of the video. So my actual running and my actual layout stuff, reading layouts, has been pretty bad. But I could see myself easily getting right back behind him. with a little bit of practice. So anyways, I digress. The build works. It's very, very nice. It doesn't really die unless you mess up, but so long as you don't mess up, you'll be fine. Now, one more thing I need to talk about actually is going to be trap trigger area of effect. So we are a trapper and we cannot be a miner. Unfortunately, that's not a thing anymore. So let me go ahead and show that. So we are actually a trapper using traps, and the traps all stack on top of itself like you saw in the killing video, or portion of the video anyways. The thing is, there's a bit of an issue there. You actually need your traps to trigger. So the trap trigger area of effect is actually very small, so we need to scale it up a lot to where Izaro rises up on a platform and he's in the middle of it. So we can't actually throw our traps directly on top of him. We actually have to throw them at the edge of the circle, and that means we need a decent amount of trap trigger area of effect to be able to actually proc them. Now, I believe the magic number is 280, but I typically recommend 290 to be able to really to really make it consistent, because sometimes at 280 it feels like it doesn't pop. So the easiest way to do that is basically going to be to use 2 of these hair triggers. You're going to need perfect ones. If yours are not perfect, you're going to use 3 of them. That's going to allow you to save some nodes on the tree. Now, this is why we run this helmet here, because we can actually allocate 2 different nodes, unstable munitions and expeditious munitions. So that is going to give us unstable munitions, which is 50%, and expeditious for another 30%. So when we helmet swap, we were getting 80% of that 290 that I spoke about. Our hair triggers are going to make up for 120. So all that we're missing is a tiny, tiny little bit. So what I've done is I take one of these nodes here for 20%, one of these nodes there for 30%, and then finally Master Sapper for 20. Oh yeah, and of course High Explosive for an extra 30. This brings me to, I believe, 290 or so, maybe even a little bit higher, and that feels really good. As you saw in the running portion of the video, I didn't have any issue when it came to my traps not triggering, and this is something that was really common from newer lab runners, having their traps just not trigger. Now, there's going to be some other important factors, like when you throw the traps, when you actually stop throwing traps, when you pop your buffs. There's a lot of questions of timing, but like I said, I have an entire series on my YouTube channel based on lab running, like the different tools that you can use for lab running, like a RAM disk, for example, or like reverse shield, the playstyle, etc., etc. So you can check those out if you're actually interested in learning more about lab running. Now, let's talk about the PoBs. Like I said, I made 2 PoBs. First PoB is going to be a non-gift labber, and it's basically just maximum move speed. Now, reaching 1,224 is actually pretty difficult, and to be honest, I don't necessarily think this is a realistic amount. You can probably hope to reach about 1,200. That extra 20% move speed here is coming from things that you're probably not going to have, or even possible to really have, unless you went all out and made the items yourself. Because they just don't exist. Like, for example, +3 Queen of the Forest for phase run, or 7 League Steps with a 10% movement speed corruption on top of the mana regen, things like that. Now, you might be wondering why not the 10% move speed enchant, and the answer is very simple. We are constantly damaging ourselves, therefore the enchant would actually never work. So the move speed, if you haven't been hit recently, is useless for this build. Because we need to do damage to ourselves to reverse chill in the first place. The rest is actually pretty realistic. Most of it is mine. Just to show you the scepters, this scepter was bought for, I believe, 6 or 8 exalts, and this one was also bought for 6 or 8 exalts or so. So they're pretty okay, but realistically, you can make these scepters for a lot cheaper yourself, because of how easy it is to actually force on +1 physical to spells on a scepter. Now, that's a story for another day. I can make a video about how to craft the scepters, if anything else, but I would recommend buying them as they are not that expensive, unless you're really, really broke. Now, if you're really, really broke, I would recommend not making this build and basically going for the speed version that is going to not be able to do the gift lab, and just farming regular lab until you've made enough currency to go through the other version. That's what most players do. They don't just start the league and go directly into the gift of the goddess. They need to work their way up. So they'll start by doing speed labs in regular Uber lab, and then they're going to work their way up to gift of the goddess as they get better gear and more currency. So again, both these PoBs are going to be linked in the description. And that pretty much sums it up. I mean, there's not much to say. Uber Lab is just a question of practice and timing. And I find it to be pretty fun. I like the aspect of racing, the racing, or the competitive aspect anyways. That's what is really fun to me. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Before I go, I do want to say a huge thank you to my supporters. Johnny, Michael, Cluzy, Zerashi, Lero, Gaikona, Stefan, Cruden, Michael, JW Player, Scott, Richard, Justin, Alex, Ollie, Matt, Kevin, Marcus, Matthias, Hayden, Bitizen, Axel, and Acid. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.